everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We're going to do one on applying for electrical vehicle charging stations for those grant funds. And we're excited to have you here today and join us and learn a lot of information about this great grant program. There's so much good information. It's certainly a great opportunity for a lot of small businesses. We are with the Idaho SBDC. Just to let you know, we provide free counseling for small businesses. Feel free to always look at our website, idahosbdc.org, and sign up for some free business consulting. We're here to help Idaho businesses. And so we are happy to be here today helping you with this grant information. Belinda Breidenbach is our environmental coordinator, and she helps us with the whole state, reach out to the whole state and let them know about different environmental programs. And so she is going to be our expert today, telling you exactly what you need to do and how to apply for this grant and what it looks like, and to answer your questions as well. And the best way to get the most out of this webinar is to have the chat open and the Q&A. We are going to have Belinda present a lot of good material at the beginning, but at the end, we want to answer your questions. So please feel free to chat in your questions, not in the chat section, but in the Q&A. And then in the chat section, we'll be putting some salient points in there. So keep that open. And if you just wanted to share something with the whole group, you could do it there as well. But the Q&A is your best bet for getting your questions answered. So anyway, we want to welcome you again. And we also want to let you know that after this webinar is over, we will be emailing you out a link to Belinda's slide deck, which is full of information, and a recording of the webinar. So you will be able to access this information wherever you need to. So without further ado, I will pass this on to Belinda.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. And today I'm hoping to give you all the information you need on these electric vehicle charging station grants so that you can apply for one for your small business. So first, Idaho has $2.8 million to award for electric vehicle charging. And this money comes from the Volkswagen settlement. So that short answer.
Belinda, we don't see your screen. No worries.
Let me. There. Now I should be sharing. Sorry. So on those electric vehicle charging stations, the state of Idaho has $2.8 million to award for electric vehicle charging, and this comes from the Volkswagen Settlement Fund. And so that's the short answer. The money's from the Volkswagen settlement. The long answer is that Volkswagen admitted to manufacturing 11 million diesel vehicles that were designed to cheat to pass the emission tests. And they were actually emitting up to 40 times over the limit for NOx. And NOx means nitrogen oxides. It's one of 5 criteria pollutants that helps form smog and acid rain and affects people's breathing. So all of this money is from Volkswagen. And they settled the case instead of going to court. And that's why it gets called VW settlement. And every state is getting a portion of that settlement money based on how many of those affected Volkswagen vehicles are in their state. And that money needs to be used to offset those excess emissions that came from those vehicles. So the Volkswagen settlement is huge. It's very complex. It was $2.9 billion, and this is just one small portion of it. And if you want more information, you'll be able to look at this slide later. But Idaho is benefiting with the ability to receive a total of $17.3 million. And Idaho has a plan that has 4 parts. And this part, 4.1, that light duty zero emission vehicle supply equipment means electric vehicle charging stations. The other 3 are all dealing with replacing diesel vehicles. And so Idaho has 2 programs. This one that I'm telling you about today for the electric vehicle charging stations, and then they have a diesel replacement program. And Idaho's Department of Environmental Quality has been awarding grants for people to replace these older diesel vehicles. A little bit of overview of the program from the application guide if you want to look at that later. But let's look at the Idaho Electric Vehicle Corridor Map. So the state of Idaho has designated these roads in blue as their EV corridors. And Idaho, along with 7 western states, the governors signed an agreement that they would have these roads would connect to the roads in the next state so that you could take a road trip with an electric vehicle and have places to charge all along the way and be able to drive across the entire western US. And if it's easier to think about it by regions or by cities, if we take like Coeur d'Alene area, the interstate, and US 95 running north-south, and then US 95 all the way from Canada down to Nevada. The section off of that of Highway 55 are included in our north-south. And then over in the area of the Idaho Falls region, Idaho 75 and US 93. So if we look at that map now with the chargers that have gone in, we see these in red. And they're part of the Electrify America chargers that went in along the interstates. And this was actually another part of the VW settlement. So we can see that most of our interstates do have some chargers, but we don't see very much along our north-south corridors. There have been 3 that have been approved through Idaho's program, one up in Bonners Ferry, in Lewiston at the Clearwater Casino and Lodge, and one in Haley. But you'll see from this map that there is a lot of opportunity and a lot of open space that you could get a charger funded at your business. And the goal of the program is to have chargers every 50 miles. Now, electric vehicles go much further than that. In the past, some of the older ones maybe only got 75 to 90 miles, but the goal is every 50 miles. So when you look at this, and we hope to start getting this map filled in, just know that that's the spacing. Now, the next question, is there still money available? And yes, there is. The applications for these stations opened back in 2018, and the money was structured so that it had to be spread out over the first 3 years. But there's a maximum of 10 years to use that $2.8 million, and there is still plenty of money available. So now let's just take a step back and make sure that we know some of the basics about electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging. So there's 3 types of electric vehicles. The first is the hybrid with an electric motor and a gas engine. Think of the Toyota Prius. You know, they have been out for over 20 years now. They use regenerative braking to capture energy and increase the fuel mileage. And those vehicles do not have a plug. Then there's plug-in hybrid electric. Right now, the ones that you might see out on the highway, Toyota Highlander, the Chrysler Pacifica minivan, the Ford Escape SUV. These vehicles have both an electric motor and a gas engine, and you plug them into charge. And that secondary gas engine is for backup or to extend the range. The third type is the battery electric vehicles. Think of your Teslas, the Chevy Bolt, the Nissan Leaf, or the new Hyundai Kona SUV. These are all electric, only electric, and so the batteries have to be charged. So you'll see that the plug-in hybrids and the battery electric hybrids all need charging stations. So one of the questions that comes up is people go, are we really going to electric vehicles? And so a little bit of background on that. Back in 2019, when things seemed quite normal, Tesla had actually delivered over 350,000 all-electric vehicles. Now, the big manufacturers that we're used to, like Ford, GM, BMW, Nissan, Toyota, they're selling in the range of tens of thousands of electric vehicles a year. And we've all been hearing 2021, the pickup trucks are coming out. There's about 3 or 4 of them that are going to hit the market. We have minivans that are electric on the market, sports cars, basic sedans, a wide range of options. I believe in 2019, there were 49 different electric passenger vehicles that were on the market here in the US. And currently, they're only making up about 2% of the sales. But what people are seeing is that initially the sticker prices were much higher. Those sticker prices are coming down, and people are realizing that in the long run, electric vehicles are actually much less expensive to operate and maintain. So that market is growing. And then we also have this chicken and the egg dilemma. Are there more electric vehicles because we put in more electric vehicle charging stations? Or are there more charging stations because we put in more vehicles? And no matter which way you look at that problem, electric vehicles are increasing and the charging stations are increasing. So unfortunately, I can't get really up-to-date numbers for the state of Idaho. But back in 2017, there were just over 200 electric vehicles registered in our state. The very next year, in 2018, it was over 1,000. And when we can finally get 2019 and 2020 data, I think we're going to see this same trend of dramatic increase in the numbers. One of the interesting things is if you're out and park in a big parking lot, take a look at the vehicles because they're not some strange sci-fi experimental cars. They look like everything else. So take a look for plugs. Take a look for those little signs that they put on there that says, PHEV or, all electric. And you'll be surprised at how many cars in the parking lot actually are electric. So now, from talking about the electric vehicles themselves, let's look at some basics on charging an electric vehicle. The first and unfortunate fact is that different vehicles have different plugs. There is no standard. Only Tesla can charge at a Tesla pump, and they have been putting in their own charging network along the highways. The Asian car makers use something called CHAdeMO, and Tesla can get an adapter to use that. But the US and European-made vehicles use something called an SAE combo charger. And of course, the two are not compatible. So it's important to know that there are combination chargers on the market. And those are the chargers that you want to look for when you're deciding the right charger for your business. So now there's actually 3 different types of electric vehicle chargers. There's level 1, which is people that pull into their garage and plug it into the outlet. And that's the exact same outlet that you would plug in a toaster or a blender. And if your electric vehicle is on empty, it's going to take you overnight, about 8 hours, to get a full charge on that vehicle. And that really works pretty darn well for your garage. But then there's a level 2 charger. It's got more juice to it. You can charge your vehicle from empty to full in 4 to 6 hours. So we see those being put in workplaces, and you'll also see those in some of the different shopping areas. And people will use these to just kind of top off their electric charge while they're in the grocery store. Now, the grant is focused on this next group, the DC fast chargers. They can take an electric vehicle from empty to full in as little as half an hour, and some of them taking up to an hour to charge. These are designed for fast fill-ups so that you can take long distance travel. It's the road trip charger. So let's also look into the future of this equipment. In 2021, the electric vehicles are getting bigger, better batteries, and they can take charges in the 100 to 200 kilowatt range. So if you're looking at a charger and it's only a 50 kilowatt charger, you need to go, this isn't too practical. This is going to look outdated very, very quickly. So you're going to want to look for these higher electric capacity chargers. The other thing to know is that right now, well, as of October 2020, there are 16,000 chargers installed across the United States at 4,000 locations. Now, if you do a quick rough math, you'd say, oh, that's about 4 charging stations at every location. But actually, right now, Tesla has about 55% of the market. And if you've seen one of these Tesla charging areas, there's one by the Perrine Bridge in Twin Falls. They tend to be at shopping centers, malls right near the interstate. And they'll put in an entire row of like 8 chargers. So what you're really seeing for the average is 2 different averages. You're seeing these areas that have 8 chargers, and then you're seeing ones with 2 chargers. And 2 chargers is really much more standard for a business. And then how Tesla has 55% of the market right now, that's expected to change in 2025. So in just 4 years, it's expected that all of the other chargers are going to take the majority of the business, and that would include the chargers at small businesses. Now, next question that you may be asking is, how much does this equipment cost? So for those level 2 chargers, the ones that you might see at the shopping center, they only have 4 to 20 kilowatts. And you can put one of those in for as low as $1,500 up to maybe about $6,500. They're really pretty affordable. Now, the DC fast chargers, the ones we're looking at for these grants, you're looking at the 150 kilowatt charging station. And back in 2018, when this program began, it was looking that most of the prices, it was $75,000 to $112,000 to put in one station. Now we just move ahead a few years, and in 2020, those estimates are down to $40,000 to $70,000 per station, which is great news. So you ask yourself, should my business host an electric vehicle charger? And so here's some of the things to consider. It's forward thinking new technology, and it can always be a good thing to be on that cutting edge. You're going to be bringing in electric vehicle customers, and the number of those EV customers is going to grow over time. You'll also attract people that do not have an electric vehicle but are green minded. And then those customers that come in, they're going to stay at your business for a minimum of 20 minutes and up to 1 hour. It's estimated that gas station stops average 15 minutes. So you're definitely keeping them there at your business for a longer time. And it can put your business on the electric vehicle map. A number of these companies and different groups have created their own maps that people with electric vehicles will use to find, where am I getting my next charge on this trip? And so your business will pop up. So, some things that your business should consider. First is the electric vehicle corridor for Idaho. And why is this important? It's because Idaho's plan specifies that stations have to be in a half-mile and preferably within a quarter-mile of an Idaho EV corridor and be easily accessible in all directions. So, for example, I was emailing with someone who has a business that's right off of an interstate interchange, an excellent location for a station. And then if you're along those north-south corridors, the access is usually very easy, and usually businesses are right on that highway, whether it be Highway 55 or Highway 93. Does your location have a good cell signal? And the reason for this is that most charging equipment needs that for the payment system. Is the location you're considering well lit? Can it be accessed 24 hours a day? Are there amenities nearby, like shopping and restaurants? The reason is you want to be asking yourself, is this somewhere you would want to hang out for up to an hour while charging? And I can give you the example, in some other places they attempted to put in the chargers along interstate rest stops, and that was not very popular. Nobody really wanted to hang out that long at an interstate rest stop. Some other places also attempted the DOT stations. You know how we drive along the highway and you see the big building full of salt and sand, and they thought, oh, we've got these everywhere. Well, is that really where you want to hang out? And I think all of us would say no. So the other thing to consider is your power. The application is actually going to require you to contact your power company, and this is a good thing for you because you need to find out, what is your site's existing electrical service? Are there any upgrades needed? And how much would that infrastructure change cost you? You'll also need to talk to your power company about how it might affect your business's power bill. What's your rate structure and your peak demand charges? So this will be a very important part of your application. And the reason you want to make sure you also get all of that information in advance is that in that application for the grant, it's not just the the cost of the equipment, but it's that installation and the maintenance of that equipment. You can have all of that in your price for what you are requesting for funding. So the next question is, how much can this grant cover? And a lot of times we think of matching funds 50-50, but no, for a business, you can request up to 80% of the cost of this electric vehicle charging station. And if you're a municipality, a government owned property, you can actually request 100%. Now, there's a couple other programs in here, and you can go back and look at this. I just wanted to make you aware of it in case there was a chance that one of these was of interest to you. So there's lower amounts available for workplace charging stations or apartment complexes or communities, and there's also some money available for hydrogen fuel cell. And this slide deck will be available to you, sent out tomorrow, if you want to go back and check on that. So you're thinking, yes, I'm going for it. What do I do next? Apply. And we're going to go over the application in just a moment. Now realize, of course, the application does not guarantee you funding. The state governor's office of energy and mineral resources has a review panel that evaluates the applications, and then those applications are submitted to that Volkswagen trust fund to get the money. And important to know, there is no closing date on the applications. So you are able to get that in there, and there's not like a deadline that you have to get it in next month. Here is the application website, and this is going to be sent out to you as well. It's important to take down this website because Idaho Department of Environmental Quality just upgraded their website here for the beginning of the year, and they changed all of their addresses. So if you have an old link, it's no longer going to work. So now, let's go through the application step by step. And we start off with the easy information. The name of your business, who it is that's in charge of the project, that'll be the contact, and giving your project a title. This is something that then OEMR can refer to your project by. Then we go into the description of the site that you want to put this electric vehicle charging station. Put the actual physical street address. And I've also seen people where they've tried to make it clearer because maybe the street address, they didn't feel it was descriptive enough. So they put in the cross streets or even the lat lawn of it. The question about government-owned property is that percentage that can be applied for. And then the next two questions talk about your site plan. You're showing what the site looks like, where those highways are, what the accessibility is, where you want to put the chargers in, and I'm going to make a suggestion, and you can do anything you want, but I think that it's pretty easy if you take a screen capture of the satellite view from a map such as Google Maps, and then draw an overlay onto that for where you're wanting to put the chargers, possibly where your electricity is coming in. It's one of those things where I think a visual is much more telling of the story than a long narrative in this section. And then here's just a few things when you're deciding where to place those chargers on your site. Some things from talking to electric vehicle owners. They've talked about how nice it is when there's some type of covering that provides some shade in the hot months, and so that you don't have to shovel out snow in the winter. And one of the really easy things to do, and I actually think this is beneficial to businesses as well, is to not locate the chargers in the prime parking. And if we think about it for an instant, the electric vehicle customers want to make sure that they pull up and that there's nobody that just parked in that spot because it was right in front of your building so that they could go into your business. So having them off away from that prime parking is actually ideal. The other thing that EV owners are always looking for is restaurants nearby. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a restaurant. It just means that within walking distance. And everybody on a road trip is looking for clean bathrooms. So now question number 5 is your local utility. And Idaho Power covers a good part of the state, Avista up in the northern, and then we have a number of other smaller local utilities. As I had said before, you're going to need to contact them right away, and they may actually give you paperwork outlining everything that instead of putting in a description, just put in the name of that contact and attach the paperwork from your power company. Now, the next question also really helps you with your planning. It's on permitting. And they list a number of different permits and want you to go through the process of finding out, do I need this permit? If I do, how long is it going to take me to get this permit through? And if you're still trying to figure it out and you're not sure, there's even a category for unsure. Now, the estimated project timeline. This one can be a little challenging because you're like, well, so I submit this, but I don't know how long it's going to take for approval. And there isn't been a really set time so far. So I would say don't worry about that. Come up with your first milestone being that you're awarded the grant. Pick a time frame that seems reasonable to you, and then just base all of your other time frames off of that. Completion of your site review, any infrastructure upgrades, delivery and installation of the equipment, what it will take. And if you are in the Avista Power Company area, Avista has been putting in a number of their own DC fast chargers, mostly on the Washington state side of the border, but they have some companies that they work with, and they actually have a timeline that's very well worked out. And when you talk to that power company, they may have that for you as well. So the next question is on the technical requirements. What type of equipment are you putting in? And so this is where I had given some information earlier. You definitely want this multi-port DC fast charger because you want to have both the CHAdeMO and the SAE combo available. And then that question, can the charging equipment be expanded for increased power? That was where I was saying you don't want a really low power charger that's going to very quickly become obsolete. You want to have something that not only has good power now, but that you can simply put an add-on and expand that. And that's also going to tie in your power company question of how much power can you get to this. So one of the things to consider, like I was saying, that 2 chargers is actually pretty standard in the norm. And the reason for that is that customers go, oh, I see this business on the map. They've got 2 chargers. And so even if I arrive and somebody else is already there and charging, I'll still be able to charge. And when you have more chargers, they're much more visible. And we always want our businesses to be visible. So, community impact. Question 10. This is where we're asking, why would someone want to hang out here and charge their car? What type of food services are available? Shopping? What's the cell service like? How's the lighting at night? And then question 11. When this program started in 2018, this was a really hard question to answer. But now it's so much easier, because once you select the equipment manufacturer that you want to go with, many of them have a complete package deal, and they'll have the point of sale system and your whole rate structure, and so that you can refer to that and you can say, this is how much I'm going to be charging, and charging to charge. And so that is going to become an easy question now. The next question is the financial structure of this project. Who is going to own the project? Which I assume that is going to be your business. And you're going to receive the financial benefits, from people paying to charge. That maintenance part and repair, as I said, now these companies actually have that as part of a package deal, which can be really nice. And the duration of the commitment, this has changed. In the very beginning, it was a much longer time frame, and now the background application guide tells you that you have to commit to keeping this station operational for 5 years. So know that for question 12. And next comes in your budget. Notice it includes engineering and design costs, but money that you haven't spent yet. So don't spend the money yet, but get the estimate of how much that would cost you. And as I was saying, it's not just the cost of the equipment, the charger, but it's the cost of all those electrical system upgrades that you found out if you need it or not from the power company. And if there's other components that you've thought of, put those in the list. The labor to install it. You had the question on the permits. It wants to know how much are those permit fees going to cost. Basically, you want to be as thorough and complete in that list of costs as you can be, because you can't come back later and amend it for more. And if you put something in and they come back and say, no, that portion isn't going to work, you have to remove that, that's fine, because you're wanting to try to be as complete as you can. So when you come out with that total project cost, remember that as a business, you can ask for 80% of that to be covered, which is just a fantastic amount. So you will be putting up only 20% of the project cost. And the last step, certifying the truth, accuracy, and completeness of this application. You sign off on it and send it in to the Office of Energy and Mineral Resources contact. So I am hoping that I have given you all of the background on electric vehicle charging stations, Idaho's program, and how to apply for these funds. And now I'll answer your questions.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for all that great information, Belinda. We have a lot of great questions. So let me go ahead and start off with number one. It was, our proposed site is in Meridian. Is that an area that would even qualify for a charging station?
So you can see from that map, there's actually quite a few in the Treasure Valley. And so I would say that you would have a lower chance than if you were in Cascade, but, or Salmon. But I wouldn't let that deter you from actually making the application.
Okay, great. And then she had a follow-up question. So is the business paying for the electricity or the consumer user paying for it?
So, and that's part of your power considerations and the way it's structured. You're paying for the electricity, but you're charging the customer that's charging. So that's where you've got to make sure you've got you're understanding how much the electricity is going to cost you from the power company so that you can set up your rate structure to cover that.
Okay, great. And we have someone ask about getting the link to the application. How would they access that?
Okay, did we get that off into the chat? I know I have the slide for it, which will come up, but can we put that up?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we did. If not, we are going to send out everyone who attended the slides and also a link to our webpage, and we'll make sure that information's in that email to everyone. So no worries on that.
And remember that I am here to answer questions. I can help you through that application. So please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to assist you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, the SBDC is here to help small businesses do these things that are not always so easy. And to have someone who is absolutely free of charge, willing to help you through the process, please take advantage of that. It's such a great opportunity. Okay, so the next question is, if your business has 2 office locations, can we apply for both?
Yes, just do 2 separate applications.
All right, great. So there's no restriction on that. And then
no restrictions.
The next question is, we are also thinking about putting solar panels on our building. Will this affect the charging station?
I don't think so, but that is definitely a question for the power company. Because it might actually benefit, but I would ask the power company.
Okay, great. And it looks like we did have someone, we did put that link in and someone put it in there again. Thank you for helping, Katie.
Okay. Oh, and I wanted to say that, obviously, at the SBDC, we can't recommend any particular business that you go to choose your charger from. But I did see, and this was more than a year ago, there was a company that had a solar-based charger. And so you might even want to look at and see it, what they provide, because I don't know. And there might be a number of them out there now.
Okay, great. And then we have another question. Does the VW program have grant money for purchasing EV delivery trucks, vans, etc.?
Okay, that would be part of that diesel replacement program, the other Idaho program. So if you have an older diesel vehicle, then you can apply to get that replaced with a newer electric vehicle. And it's really a pretty amazing program. And there have been some exciting electric vehicles. There's some electric garbage trucks that are coming out. And the city of Meridian is actually through that program getting an electric fire truck next year.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, different program.
Okay, great. And then Tommy asked, is a half mile, is less or greater than a half mile from an EV corridor a deal breaker?
I don't know if I'd call it a deal breaker. It would depend on all of those site specifics. Um, if you were 10 miles away, I'm not sure that they would be that excited, but if you were just outside of the range, it's one of those things that, you kind of make a judgment call on and see what they'll approve. And depending on the location, if it's in a spot that they haven't been able to get any charges into, they might be more willing to approve that.
Okay, good information. Okay, then Russ asked, what is the difference in definition between the business's 80% and the workplace 60%?
Okay, so the workplace charging the 60%, think of our places like in Boise, Micron or HP. You're going to have to drive on to that business campus. You're probably having to go through security. It's not a place that someone is coming to shop or, a normal business type entity. So I hope that helps kind of define that.
Okay, thank you. And then for business grant pays for maintenance, how does that work for ongoing expenses?
So most of these chargers now, as part of the package price, they have a maintenance contract that will cover, that time period. And so just part of their charges of what they're offering now. So
Okay.
that's the that's a part for the whatever charger company you select. So look into that.
Okay, and then what was the charging technology that should be picked on the application, the CHA or SAE combo?
The CHAdeMO or the SAE, both. That's the key, is you want both, because there is no standard, but those two, pretty much any vehicle that pulls up could use one of those two. So you want to make sure you have both.
Great. And then is the Burley, Hayburn, Rupert area a good location for this grant?
I think that there is one Electrify America station in that area. So I would look and see how far away you are from that station. And the Office of Energy and Mineral Resources is not discouraging any applications.
Okay, so it's worth your time if you think you have a chance to go ahead and just do it, right? You have nothing to lose,
Yeah.
Melinda. All right. So is there no standard rate structure for charging?
There is not. And that's with new technology. It was all over the place in the beginning, but now some of these chargers you can actually, they'll have an entire rate structure plan and a point of sale system that can come with the charger that you select. And you can, set that how best works your business. And so it's a great question to ask each of the different charging station manufacturers when you look at them.
Yeah, That is definitely a good question to ask to help you pick what you want to do. All right, so we had an old station system to attach with an adapter to an RV hookup. The new business's owner wants to know if it can be assessed to get it started again.
So I know the RV parks, uh, a lot of times they want to get themselves, put on those EV maps with the chargers. But depending on where you are, because usually those aren't a fast charger. So I would really look at upgrading and going with a fast charger through this grant program.
Okay. And then can signage be included?
Excellent question. I do not know the answer to that.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we can explore for you, Rhonda. There's
Yeah.
another question that was put in the chat. When is the deadline for the application?
What's really nice is that right now there is no deadline except for when they run out of money. So the sooner that you apply, the better chance you have of getting money.
Wow. All right. So everyone needs to get on this right away. That is all the questions we have right now. Wow, we had a great questions. I'm going to launch a poll. So if you don't mind, everyone, go ahead and answer. We want to make sure that we basically met your needs in this webinar and made sure that you had your information that you were interested in given to you and supplied to you. I want to thank also Katie Pagan for chatting in some good information. Thank you, Katie. And then also Deborah also chatted in some good information too. So anyway, like Belinda said, this is like the money's there, it's available, and she's here to help. Any passing thoughts at the end, Belinda, that you want to share?
No, and I'm wondering if Katie could answer the question on signage that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah, Katie, if you know that, if you don't mind going ahead and putting that in the chat real quickly, that'd be great. I'm thinking Katie must be is obviously a good resource. We appreciate her joining in and helping us with some support in chat today.
Thank you. And look at that that map of the EV corridors, and really hoping to get that map filled in on our north-south corridors. So
yeah. And Katie did just chat in. Thank you, Katie. She said, yes, basic signage can be included in the budget request. So there's your answer. So you can go, it's one-stop shop, get all these things, help your business be on the map when it comes to EV charging. It's a great opportunity. She said that basic signage would include directional signage to direct travelers to your location. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. Thank you, Belinda, for your knowledge. Thank you, Katie, for your backup support in chat. Please reach out to the Idaho SBDC. You can go to our website, idahosbdc.org. And we chatted in Belinda's page, but you can certainly find her under specialized programs. And what I wanted to say was we are available to help, and Belinda is here. That is her number one thing to do, is to help businesses succeed when it comes to environmental programs. So please reach out to us, and we will be emailing you a link to this information and also this wonderful PowerPoint slide that Belinda put together, so you can have this information at your fingertips. So thanks again, everyone, for joining, and we will see you next time.